Hello, JD Grosspitz here, lead singer and streaming talent of Malignant Bear. Today we're coming at you with a quick look of the game Last Epoch. This is an action RPG in similar vein to Diablo or Path of Exile, and it's currently in early access in Steam, and we're doing a quick look on it because I've been playing it off stream, and I think it's excellent and fits a nice niche in between Diablo and Path of Exile in terms of complexity and everything going on with it. Again, the game is in early access and it has some issues, and we'll talk about that. And the biggest one is there's currently no multiplayer. They're working on that at the time of recording this video, but that is coming for this game. So we'll just be doing single player with a character that's early on in the game, so if you're at all worried about spoilers, this is all content from within the first 2 or 3 hours or so. And even here on the thumbnail, the levels of these characters are not representative of how far I've gotten. The screenshot is a little bit older. So anyway, without any further ado, let's jump into the game and check it out. So we're here in the first little hub area. This is the council chambers and the ruined era you can see. And we'll check out the map here just to kind of demonstrate some things. So this game, it has acts similar to Diablo or Path of Exile, but those acts are based on different time periods. The story in this game is kind of reminiscent of Chrono Trigger, where you find out that the world has been destroyed, and then some time shenanigans happens, and you try to stop that from happening. So you can jump around to the different eras, and you can see different things appear on the map based on those eras. And it keeps it fresh and interesting, and you can sometimes jump around to the same specific location just in a different time period. So for example, you might find, the Shining Cove in the area down here in this era, and then you can be teleported to another era there, or even there. So it keeps it interesting that way. There's a lot of variety in terms of the maps. We're not going to be seeing that too much here because we're in sort of an underground city area that's been attacked by the Void. That's the terrible thing that ended the world. But we'll see a little bit of that, but not as much as you will in the full game. Again, I wanted to keep it basic for story purposes. Game looks and runs pretty well, and we'll see that when we get into the combat. But because it's an action RPG, we have to go into the nitty-gritty of all of these different things. So there's 5 classes in the game, and each class can specialize further into 3 different subclasses. So right now we're the Primalist, and this is kind of best described as almost a combination of the Druid and some of the features of the Barbarian from Diablo 2. And a lot of the other classes sort of have more Diablo 2 style comparables, but they're interesting enough, and there's a lot of variety in them. So you have tons of different things you can do with your builds. So you can see even here on the screen, just at level 10, our stat screen, there's a lot of stuff going on here. Full resistances, all of these different damage and defense numbers. You can get into the nitty-gritty of all of those, all of your stats for your minions. So I have wolves, and all sorts of other stats there. And of course, just the basics up there, health, regeneration, all that. I haven't died yet on this character, which is good. But outside of that, here's your skills and specializations. So every character class has a few basic skills, and then when you specialize into another class, you can unlock more there. Again, because this is an early access, all of this is potentially subject to change. They tell you that when you start out. But there's a lot of cool stuff here. And every single skill in the game has its own skill tree. So you can choose by the end of your game to specialize in 5 skills, which corresponds very nicely to the 5 potential skills on your skill bar. Who would have thought? And there is tons of variety in these. Some of these are just basic number increases, do extra damage. But some of them are complete game changers for how these skills will work. So they can, add or remove resource cost, change the type of damage it does. There's, skills, for example, that the base skill does fire damage, and you can convert it to doing poison damage, or make it so that all of your poison damage then goes into that skill. So you can really specialize your build, but it's a more standard system to do that than in something like Path of Exile, which I think is interesting. So again, full trees for all of these, and they're pretty quick to level up as well. The game does a good thing where the first hour or two, like I said, is enough to get you pretty far. This character I only have about an hour and a half on to get to where I am, and you get to level 10, and then it starts to slow down, which I'm fine with, because by level 10 you have a lot of skills and have seen sort of the basics of the game. So it gets you started there, and then it goes into a more kind of standard pace with things. But all of these skills here, so again, there's still plenty more that we're going to unlock. And then, of course, a standard passive skill tree there. So you can see your base class, and then once you get further in the game, you can pick one passive skill tree from one of the advanced classes. So a shaman, druid, or beastmaster, all of them are going to play a little bit differently than each other, despite having the same base class. And this is even more pronounced with some of the other characters. So for example, one of them is the rogue, and her base class is just, full-blown DPS. But then some of her special classes, there's a ranged one, a melee one, and then there's a pet-based one that's currently not in the game. But based on what I've seen of it, it sounds like it's going to be pretty interesting. So a lot of these are just straight number increases, as you can see, but there is a few in some of the passive trees that, again, are more complete game changers for your build. So lots of options here. You can pick one class. If for example, you don't want to go into one of these special classes, you still have to pick one to progress the story at some point, but you could dump, all of your passives into Primalist if you wanted to, if you didn't want to have to worry about these other things. But of course that unlocks other skills, so you have to balance what you want to do and what you want to work towards. So we'll look at some of the items here. Of course you have your standard normal, magic, rare, set, unique, all of those good things. We have quite a lot of rare and unique items actually on this character, because there's a stash so you can send things around to them. So I've been pretty lucky in my drops and send stuff back. So this here is a unique mace. You can see it's got a lot of different stats on it there, and they can all re-roll different ways, so you can see more explanation of what all of these different things are, which is great. So you're never kind of wondering what any of your stats do, and you can see that for all of your skills as well. You can have more explanation as to what things are doing. But rare is obviously a little bit more basic. As far as the customization goes of your items, uniques are unique, you can't do anything with them, but there's a full crafting system for rare items, or for rares and magics. And what this does is you can change any of the prefixes and suffixes that they have, and you can increase them, modify them any way you want, and you get a ton of materials for that. And this is one of my kind of slight complaints with the game, is materials drop as little one-slot items, and you have to individually pick them up. And then you're just going to automatically transfer them to your material bag, so they're not cluttering up your inventory. I'm not sure why they don't just automatically pick up and do that. It's kind of an odd choice, because you're never not just going to pick up all of them and send them to that bag. But again, just kind of a small thing. Of course you have gold, and that does auto loot, thank goodness. But there's a whole bunch of things you can do there. Here's the idol system. This is charms from Diablo, but it has its own little thing there, and you unlock these as you go through the story. So some uniques are a little bit more different than others. So this one is just kind of straight number increases. Others can completely change your build around. So this one, you can summon extra wolves, which is great because my character summons wolves. Or this one, I have a chance to spawn bees when I attack things with melee, which is pretty cool. Blessings is an endgame system, and we won't focus too much on that again because that's a little bit more subject to change than some of the other things. There is a full endgame system, and it's a little bit more similar to Rifts from Diablo 3, where you sort of rerun content with some modifiers and changes, but it's cool and it's well done. There is going to be a cash shop option with appearance things, again similar to Path of Exile when the game launches. We don't know too much about this yet because it's all work in progress. But again, it's worth pointing out that that is going to be an option for this. So we've talked enough about the systems, let's see how it actually plays. So one of my other little nagging things with this, though, I guess before we do that, is the UI is kind of strange. So for example, here we'll go to our stash, and you can see we can still click on things through the window, which is a little odd. I'm hoping that it's just a bug and it'll get fixed, but it is worth pointing out that yes, some of the UI elements you can seemingly click through them, and it it leads to some awkward interactions at times, especially when you're in town. We'll go through. So like I said, we're battling against the void. This is when the world has essentially ended, and we're just trying to pick up the pieces. We have to go through and reach, what is it? Some other area. So we're just going to go through these and fight a little bit. So you can see we have a full mini-map. You can adjust that as much as you want. Damage numbers displayed. My wolves are going to go and just tear things up. They're very good. There's lots of spawning enemies around. So you can see we have loot filters on, and you can turn those on or off. We'll show the window for that. There is a full loot filter option, so again, similar to something like Grim Dawn, where you can add a whole bunch of rules in here, and there is tons of them. So you could target specific suffixes and affixes on items. You can get as granular as you want. So if you only want, one-handed magic swords that do plus cold damage, you can make that a filter. And you can make these be either account-wide or character-wide, which is good. So we have one where we're just targeting rare and above items, essentially. So I don't care about magics or commons. They don't sell for very much, and they just clutter up your inventory. So, going through, again, I have a standard skill here. Just swipe on my right mouse button. And because you only have access to 5 skills at once, that's probably what most people are going to do, is have like their base damage dealer on the right mouse button and then other skills other places. But of course you can change that as much as you want. There's champion and more rare enemies. There's bosses as well, so we're gonna maybe see some of those as we go through this. Graphics and sound in this game are very good. The enemies look excellent, especially the void ones. They're all kind of grotesque and terrifying. The player models, though, oddly, that's one of my other kind of issues with the game. And I know they're working on improving them, but they're just kind of a little odd looking. And I have to wonder if that's why there isn't a cash shop for cosmetics. So I do have some slight concerns over that. That, yeah, the player models, and we made light of it in the thumbnail, my hands are clipping through my weapon and stuff, and just, in general, they don't look super great. The animations are fine, but just, again, kind of odd. Right, so here we have a little boss. So we need to get over to the other side of this, but this boss is stopping us from doing that. See, it has different attacks. We can dodge those. But we really don't have to, because we have enough, health steal and regen and everything. We have plenty of our bees and wolves and all sorts of things. Summon little totems. Alright, so we killed that boss. And the reason why I started a character here, other than it being early in the game, is it demonstrates the time feature as well. So we can't get across there normally, instead we have to travel through time, and we're greeted with this wonderful, sort of Doctor Who-esque time travel sequence here. And it throws us to a completely different era. And that's the core mechanic of the game, is that, again, the world has ended, and you have stumbled upon the ability to time travel and potentially change that. So different enemy types here, very different depending on the zone and era that you're in. And this is one of those games where you are very powerful, but enemies are as well. So if you're, not careful, not paying attention, it's still pretty easy to die. I'm a little overpowered because I've gotten so many uniques on this character early on, again, because I've leveled up other characters pretty close to the end. So you can see here's one of the shards that's a crafting item. So you have to pick them up individually, and then you just transfer them, and it goes automatically into that magic crafting bag that you don't ever have to think about. So, again, I'm not sure why that's not an automatic thing. It just means that there's some awkward inventory management as a result. But we're tearing around, going pretty quick. So you can see not only did we level up, but some of our skills did as well. They all have separate experience systems. So you can see we leveled up wolves. We can choose what we want to put in there. Wolves gain a leap attack. Can summon more wolves. Wolves can do bleed damage. So all sorts of things that you can build towards depending on what you want your character to do. Or in this case, what you want your wolves to do. Want them to go fast. You can respec any of these at any time. You lose some of the max level, so for example, if I take points out of this, it will set it back a couple levels, but then it gains increased experience until it gets back up to where you were. So there is a slight amount of punishment for if you screw up your build, but it's not damning to the point of something like Diablo where it's like, crap, I hit the wrong button, and I already used, the 3 respecs for the game. I guess I better just re-roll. So there's good things there for sure. And you can also respec your passive points once you get back to town. The only thing you can't change is your specialty class. And like I said, you unlock that a little bit later. So you do have to think about that. But again, they're different enough that you would probably want to do a completely separate character anyways. So for example, on this, if you wanted to be the druid as opposed to the shaman, you'd want to change that up. Let's see here though. I can't remember what I was even working towards on this one. More area of effect, that sounds pretty good. And then we'll see some of our passives here. Go back to Primalist. So I kept this pretty simple, and again, because you can change it up later, so I'm not worried about, making a terrible choice. If increased health and every 3 seconds, your next hit restores health. That's pretty good. A lot of characters can dual wield, which is good. So I picked that even though I'm using a two-hander, just in case. And of course I can always drop that later if I decide that, no, I don't actually want to do that. You don't get your passive stat points, so you don't get your strength, dexterity, intelligence, attunement, and vitality as you level up. You instead either get them through items or your passives, which is interesting. So gear doesn't have a stat point requirement, it's just straight item level or character level. But it's worth keeping in mind that if you want, specific bonuses from those stats, you need to target them in other places. Let's see. Do that. It seems good. So again, because we hit more points, then we got another skill here. So it unleashes a mighty roar that knocks back nearby enemies and stuns them for 1.5 seconds. Rares and bosses are stunned for half as long. Makes sense. But you can see here, looking at one of our skills, you can see the scaling that it has, so you can target those individual stats more so, and even the tags specific to each skill. So if you are, oh, I want to focus on cold damage to buff Tempest Strike, you can do that. So there is a lot of potential stuff here that you can do to customize your character and how you play. So we got a new little teleport point. Explore a little bit further just to kill these last few things. Get out of here and back to the ruined era. And the maps in the campaign, they're set. They're always going to be the same. Of course, other than bosses, enemies on them are going to be random, so, it'll be different champions and rares and all that every time. But the layout is always going to be the same, so you'll get used to where things are in subsequent runs, in addition to just being better because you have different items. You'll know exactly where you need to go. Of course, you always want to try to kill as many things as possible anyways. There's lots of different modifiers for enemies. So for example, that one teleported around, he drops some little slimes and we killed him. Some of them will, heal themselves to full when they get close to death, others will explode. Different damage types. There's a lot of variety in terms of enemies in this. So go up here. Found a new little side quest as we're going.
Where are you going?
There is some voice acting in the game. Through some of the side quests, you can see there's one of the NPCs. He's mouth agape. He's terrified. He's going to tell us that we have to kill some specific guy here. Again, some champion enemies. Nothing special there. Still just mow them down pretty quickly. Sometimes you'll find NPCs battling things, which is cool. And gold is auto pickup and it's shared across all your characters. I know that's one of the things they're working on before the multiplayer is a better account system. So we'll have to see how that goes. Again, at the time of recording this, that is still a work in progress, but hopefully that'll be out before too long. Of course, there's potions. Your belt determines how many you can hold at a time. And if you're at full health and full potions, they don't do anything. If you're not, they auto pick up though. So if, for example, I was at full potions but didn't have full health, it would automatically pick up and use one, so you don't have to worry about wasting them. One of the other little oddities, though, with the game is there is a town portal system, so you can, teleport back. Whenever you do, though, the map that you're on resets, which is kind of odd. So if, for example, your inventory is full and you want to go back to town to clear some space and then pick up some things that you left behind, when you get back, they won't be there. I'm not sure if that's a bug or a conscious design choice, but again, it is odd and worth pointing out. So we killed that little boss, not as exciting as the other one, but automatically finished the quest. And because we went in that time rift, we got another quest from that as well, so someone else might want to know about our time traveling abilities. Seems like it might be important. But again, pretty quick zone here. Treasure chests around. There's no keys or anything to have to keep track of, thank goodness. And again, because the idols, which are basically charms, have their own little window, inventory management, other than the crafting materials, can be pretty simple. You don't have to worry about identifying anything either, it just automatically does that. And you can even choose to show full tooltips of items on the ground if you want to. There's a decent amount of accessibility options in the game, although one glaring omission is there's no subtitles, which I'm not sure if they're just a work in progress or what, but there just aren't any. So we're in the next zone here. Some more things here first. Increased damage, that sounds pretty good. So we'll do that. And we got some other skills. Surrounds you with a maelstrom. Ooh, sounds good. Swap that out. So again, we can only have a couple abilities at once. See, here we have a little event going on. It's kind of a little gauntlet. We'll do this and then end it after this, just so this video doesn't get too long. And there's some odd little vestiges of things that, like, for example, this is the first part in the game where you come across the anvil up there is supposed to be the crafting menu. And I have to wonder if maybe in an earlier build you didn't have access to crafting until this point, because then it gives you a quest to, like, open the crafting menu and check it out, but you can do that from level 1. So I'm not sure what was going on with that. But again, early access. And the issues that I have with it are very minor and definitely fixable. So again, even the potentially biggest one, the character models being a little iffy, they are working on and have been improving them over time. So my wolves are very strong, but fire is also very strong. As you can see there, they are dead. I can't summon more. Oh no. I'm in trouble here. Get them, bees. This boss was significantly easier on the ranged characters that I was playing before. I think I mentioned this before when we played both Titan Quest and Grim Dawn, that I prefer ranged characters in action RPGs. I have been enjoying, though, one of the classes is an interesting mix of kind of Paladin and Barbarian, and I've been having fun with that. Get out of there. Alright, when the fire dies down, maybe the wolves will respawn, we'll see. They've never died before, so this is a new experience. Nope, they're gone. Can always summon more, no biggie. That potion kind of clipped through there, so I can't quite pick it up. So again, little oddities like that. But the game is very fun. Like I said, you can see through the customization and everything. There's a lot going on here, but it's presented in a more traditional format than something like Path of Exile. So it's just, standard skill points. You're not looking around for skills to drop. There's just gold. There's not, dozens of other different types of currencies that you have to worry about. So I think this is a nice blend between the kind of more old school and simplistic thing of Diablo, but the just extreme customization and potential of something like Path of Exile. And I really like it for that. I enjoy action RPGs, and this one definitely scratches an itch, and I can't wait for this to come out and for the multiplayer to be enabled, because I think I have some friends and bandmates who might be interested in this one as well. So again, he's got another quest for us. Use the forge, share your experiences, go back to town, and we'll end it there. I don't want to show off too much. Again, just some of the basics from early on in the game. But yeah, last Epoch. It's in early access right now, so it's just kind of a quick look at the things that are in the game. And again, all subject to change, but it's all good, and I can't wait for this one to come out. So anyway, we hope you enjoyed this video. We appreciate your viewership, and until next time, have a good one.